Welcome back to another episode of Light Between Us. This is a podcast with no rules, no boundaries, and no expectations. It truly just is. These are unscripted conversations with those I have real relationships with. This is not an interview or an informational podcast, but a podcast of witness to the living example of healing through relation 2 by 2. This podcast is a space for us to meet fully in the present and to allow the miracles, the love, and the light to shine through. A reminder, we do not wake up alone. We remember the truth together 2 by 2 as the light reveals itself in the space between us. You guys, yes, today's episode is with Joy. And if you have listened, I have done many episodes with Joy, including the most amazing one with Joy and Julie, the Theo of Golden. If you haven't checked that out, go back. It's 2 episodes prior and check that out. But oh my goodness, today's episode starts out with such grand excitement. Joy has been anticipating today for some time. We both have, and we get to, in real time, see what has unfolded for her today. And then we, of course, dive deep into so many beautiful topics, so many beautiful experiences we both have had, and just really allow ourselves to be guided wherever it may be. It ends up being, drum roll, over an hour and 45 minutes. But I promise you, we completely lost track of time, and I'm sure you will too if you need to pause and come back. But this is an episode you are going to want to listen to all the way to the end, as every episode, because Spirit, you never know, is when Spirit is going to have us say something that is exactly what you need to hear in this moment. So do all things, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, but I will not continue to go on. I'm so grateful you're here, and here is Joy. Okay, I am hitting record. Joy is currently in the lobby, and I'm about to let her in. But today, I believe, was the day that she was going to attempt to apply to be an extra on The Chosen. So I wanted to hit record before she comes in because I want to see, did it come through? Of course, if it did not align that way, it wasn't meant to be, at least in this moment, but I'm still so excited. So I wanted to hit record first to capture anything that may occur. So here, I'm going to let Joy in. And usually I'm not recording right away, so she might think it's not being recorded. Oh, see, she's not even there. She's like gone. She must have, oh, there she is. Okay, hit record first because I don't know what's coming. And so I wanted to we're already recording.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So, because I wanted to hear, what happened?
Okay. I'm freaking out because I'm not.
You don't seem like you're freaking out. You seem like just blah.
I'm trying to stay calm. It's an inward freaking out because I kept, like you and I talked about, I just kind of prayed and said, you know what, God, if you want me to be there, it'll happen. If not, it's okay. So right. I went on right at 12. I registered at Eventbrite.
Okay.
I got a order number. And it looked like I already had the tickets. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I read through the email. So I'm sorry. Eventbrite, click register, put in my information.
Okay.
Looks like I got the tickets.
So you have all the things that Dallas said, don't make sure you have it, which is the Eventbrite thing, like in that one email we got. Okay.
So I looked at the order number, wrote it down. And then I'm like, where do I go next? So the next page I went to, there was no place to donate. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Went back, just went back to the first page. And then I saw the, written out where you type in for the address, like the HTTP, whatever. So I clicked on that. Then I made my donation.
Okay.
And then I got a confirmation saying, I got a confirmation email saying, thank you for your donation. We are matching it up with your Eventbrite registration.
Okay.
And we'll send you a confirmation email within 72 hours with the rest of your information. I know. So I'm like,
you don't have the email yet.
So they said, give us 72 hours. When the registration closes, we'll send out all the emails. So I'm like, oh my God, does this mean I got it? Like, I feel like I got it.
Well,
but I don't know.
Right, because, okay, anyway, so I kind of gave a precursor because I hit record before you ever hopped on because I didn't want like I wanted to record this. So we'll rewind the tape a little bit and share. So it was last week. What day was it that you sent me a text and you're like, call me today or tomorrow? It was Friday, right? It was Friday evening. You said, call me later today or tomorrow. Did you get the email? And I was from Dallas or The Chosen, and I was like, no, and I checked and I didn't. And I got their emails yesterday, so I don't know what happened. I didn't get that email, or it went to junk, or I deleted it without realizing. And so you forwarded me the email. And one of the things, like if anyone's listened to the previous podcast with Joy, is is our love for The Chosen is one of our common things, which is really our love for Jesus, but whatever, but at the level form, The Chosen. And when you had gone to ChosenCon, you even shared it on our recording that you were under the impression that there might not even be an opportunity to be extras anymore because they didn't need people, is what kind of was portrayed. Yeah. But that email was like, hey, we have very limited spots. Like, here's what you got to do. And it was all these steps. But the interesting thing with that email was it was like open to interpretation of, do I make, because you had to do a $450 donation per person per day. So if you wanted to do like 2 days, you had to do $900 per person. But the confusing, Joy, you read it as you'll get picked to be an extra, then you make your donation because they're only picking 300 people. My reading of it was you make the donation in order to even be an option to be picked, meaning like, you donate, period, and you may or may not get to go. So we still don't know for sure. We think, like Patrick read it then too, and he had like some way random interpretation, but eventually he came to Joy's interpretation, was you don't pay until you've been chosen. But like, we don't know, and that's why you're kind of in this limbo, is because, we hope it was your interpretation and Patrick's interpretation, and this means like you're in because you donated, but there's still to be room for error, room for whatever.
And I went to my husband and I was like, can you please read this too? And I was like, please just read this too. And he was like, I'm interpreting it like I am, like, yes, you register, pay your donation, you have a spot. Yeah. So let me read you what the confirmation email I received right after. We've received your donation and are currently matching it with your Eventbrite registration on the back end.
Which you did correctly, because Dallas, he, in the email, expressed, like, you better have that Eventbrite. Okay. Perfect. So that's matchy.
So then it says, please allow up to 72 hours for the process to be complete. And once confirmed, you'll receive an email verifying your spot. After that confirmation, we will send a follow-up email with travel requirements, filming details, whatnot. Thank you again for your generous gift. So I'm sitting here. You're like, that's kind of why I'm holding my breath, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. And that was a conversation because originally, like, you had reached out and you're like, let's do it together because I want to be an extra. Yeah. But when we really looked at the money and financially where we're at and stuff, it just didn't make sense for us. But it is. I mean, it's a large barrier. It's not really open to everyone to be able to be... I mean, like, if you want to do the 2 days, which you might as well do the 2 days if you're there. Like, if you're going to pay for lodging, that's $1,000. I mean, like, $1,000 just for that. And then you have to pay your lodging, pay your airfare, get a car because it's kind of in the deserty. Like, it's not, like, you can't walk there from a hotel probably, I'm guessing, where they're recording. And then you have to get your outfit, which, oh my gosh, I went down a rabbit hole of that. Like, some people are charging $150 just to rent one, plus shipping and handling and this other fee. Yeah, and if you want to buy one, they're like $400. But I said to Pat, I was like, I wish that people had to buy their outfits first, because I've gotten big into thrifting, and like I found like people talking about what, once you get the requirements, you know, kind of like what it is. And I could totally thrift these, and I could sell them at like $150, and that could have potentially paid for my spot. But like, it's like the cart that would be putting the cart before the horse. Right. Yeah. But so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, other than that was kind of how our conversation started, was us two going together. But Joy, I'm hearing the email you just read me says, verify your spot. To me, if you didn't already have a spot, the email wouldn't verify your spot, it would secure your spot. I
know, and that's kind of the part where I'm holding my breath, because I'm thinking
72 hours. Come on, Dallas.
I know. And then when it said when registration closes, and I'm thinking, when you're talking less than 300 spots per session, because there was more than one date, that's got to close locations quickly. The other thing is, in the instructions, when he kept saying, if you get shut, you know, if the website crashes or you get stuck in a loop, just keep refreshing. I didn't have any of that. I clicked, it was a very straightforward, very easy. Now, I don't know if that's like grace of God that he, lined it all up perfectly, or if they didn't get as much traffic as they anticipated. I don't know, but I'm hoping. That's kind of why I'm not celebrating yet, and I'm kind of holding my breath until I get that email that says your spot is secured. Here's going forward. Again, if not, I just made a very large donation and
to the Chosen, which was meant to happen, right? Like, we're still trusting that.
Exactly, because I went to my husband initially and I said, hey, and he knew from being at Chosen Con, I was asking everybody, oh, is there an opportunity? What do you think? What do you think? And like you said, a lot of people were like, we just don't really know. And Dallas said more than once, we're not going to need a whole lot. And when you're talking less than 300, and that doesn't even guarantee you'll be in a scene and whatever, which I'm fine with that.
So many other things.
Yeah. I just want to be there.
Yeah.
So I said to him, do you care? I'm going to reach out to Ashley and see if she would like to go. So I just dropped him off at the airport last night or yesterday. And he knows this is on my calendar. I'm like, I got to get my laptop set up. I got to be like sitting in front of my computer at 11:45. And I dropped him off and I was like, okay, I just want to make sure you're okay with this donation, the plane ticket, everything it's going to cost. And he was like, what an incredible opportunity if you get it. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he goes, see if you can get 2 spots. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, are you sure? And he was like, you know what? It's like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? I'll figure it out with work. And I was like, okay, because we don't want to take the spot if, But ironically, I had just prayed that morning. I downloaded this 15 prayers for your husband, 15 prayers for your daughter or son from Lisa Turkhurst. Okay. And I had gone through that morning and done a lot of the prayers for him. And I was like, wow, this feels like prayers answered, that he said, I would love to go with you and do this with you. And I was like, oh my gosh. So again, sprinkler, not fire hose. I just asked. Yeah. So I'm hoping. So
you made a really large donation to the Chosen.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I hope this works out. I hope it's all good. And I did. I prayed this morning and I said, if it is your will, God, for me to be there, then it'll happen. And if not, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Because you only have that money because it was meant to go to that space. Like, we see that over and over again, Pat and I do, of where we think we're getting ahead, right? Like moving up the money totem pole, and then something happens and it brings us back here. And then we think like we're getting below the money totem pole, and all of a sudden something happens and brings, like, we're always right here lately. Like, just always have exactly what we need for where we're meant to be. And so that was super hard for me when you asked, because my ego was like, the FOMO, I need to be there, this is what I always wanted, but I didn't feel it inside. Like I didn't feel that financially we had been set up for that, which is just an excuse that, Spirit was using to communicate with me. And then, you and I was like, if something will come along, if I'm meant to apply for these, and it didn't. But the other thing is, it still doesn't mean it's off the table, because things change so often. And I'm just excited, to be a part of it's kind of like when you went to ChosenCon, I was super jealous, right, at the level of form. But when I was crying the whole time you shared because I felt like I was there experiencing it with you when you shared in our call. So, and we've talked about I'm really good, one of the skills that Spirit has brought into our world to help us be able to reach things is point hacking. I'm amazing at finding deals on flights with points. I'm amazing at money back so that you have this extra money so you and I can work through that for you and your husband. Yes. And then the thrifting, unless you go thrift yourself, I would love to be able to go on a hunt for your outfits once you get it. And so
that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to share this with you regardless, because I am going to be, once I get that confirmation email, it's going to be like, okay, Ashley, game on.
Yeah, send me the information and the instructions, because I guess I found a YouTube video of this mother and daughter who thrifted their outfits. I don't know which season they were a part of, but either way, they said it's very, the color scheme, they are very, detailed, specific in what they want. So I'm excited. And I even told Pat, I was like, maybe this is one of those weird opportunities, like I just said, that we always get exactly what we need to get there. That as I'm thrifting for Joy and her husband, I find other stuff that isn't their sizes, and we have this Etsy platform already established. What if then we sell chosen outfits to other, you know what I mean? This could bring so many other opportunities, which I think is the beauty of trusting and really leaning into full surrender with Jesus, because we my ego, my personhood wanted to go to this message from Joy means I need to go. But maybe that's not what it was ever about. It was about whatever comes in a different form for me. And I think that's the beauty of how it's all being used for the good.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I was you were the first person I thought of, because I'm I have to share this with her. And like you said, you didn't have that. I had that such a deep, deep feeling of, oh my gosh, you have to make this work. I mean, my daughter graduates high school. We're throwing a party. All these people are coming in town. And then it would literally be fly to Utah, do this, and then fly back here. And there's this big, huge wedding that all three of my girls are in. And so it's literally in between two huge events. And I still was I want to be there so badly that this is, it was a deep, deep, serious feeling that my husband didn't even question it. He was well, nope. We could kind of been waiting for this opportunity. And I'm I know so hopefully it all works out. Hopefully it's meant to be. And I also thought the same thing. I thought to myself this morning, in order not to get too anxious about it, because I was starting to get oh my gosh. And I was telling myself this morning, you know what, Joy, there could be a really big, big purpose that you're supposed to do this. Maybe it's somebody you're going to meet on the plane.
Yeah.
Or
that's what it's used for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was okay, maybe if this works out, that there's more to it than just you get to enjoy being part of the experience or seeing the experience. Because again, I don't need to make it on film. I don't need to be in it. I just want to be there just to be a part of it. Just to watch would be amazing.
Well, and I think it's not even a maybe, it's a for sure. What I've realized is that along the journey of unwinding and remembering truth and leaning further into trust and surrender, it's Spirit or Jesus gives you these little, he uses your preferences, let's say, right? So your preference was that you want to go be an extra. So he's playing with what Joy wants to get Joy aligned to where she needs to be for the interactions that are necessary. It never has to do with you being an extra there and having that experience. I know like personal development and spirituality, as far as the New Age, has really taught us that we're these little gods and that we're meant to here to experience everything. And I lived that for a long time. I lived that belief, and it failed me over and over again. And that's what brought me back to my faith in Jesus and in God, and seeing that the experiences are just opportunities for the connection, the relationship that reminds us of the relationship with Jesus and allows us to be, you know, I'm not the greatest at quoting the Bible, but it talks about us to be like the hands and the mouth, or what, right? Isn't there like a quote like that? For Jesus, for God. And so, like an example, when we were traveling the world, Joy, like I said, have you seen the movie The Nutty Professor?
Yeah.
Okay, so I joked, we ended up in this remote island, Komook, off of Thailand. We chose one that was less popular than the popular one, and we just felt called there. And we chose to stay there for a month, Joy, an entire month. And so this was at the beginning of our travels, and my mind was like, oh, remote island, fresh food. And, you know, like you think of all the glamour and people laying on the beaches, and it's like so amazing. We got there, and like our view out our window was a cement wall that birds shit on right on the beach. But the beach was like not what you thought. It was not my expectations. And I immediately was crying to get me off this island. Get me off this island. And then the food was an issue because it was filled with like so much MSG and stuff, which brought us to this cafe called Miss Island. And they had like the most American food that was there, and it was delicious. But in turn, it was about the connections that we had with the staff. Like they didn't even speak the language. And we continued to have those moments where Spirit used food to guide us places. So like our next spot we went to, all I wanted was broccoli, and we found this cafe that literally I just got a plain. When you have so much seasoning in these places and salt, you just want plain. I've never wanted plain so much in my life. And they had plain chicken and plain broccoli. Well, guess what, Joy? We ended up staying in that area for a month, which we weren't supposed to, but stuff didn't align. And we literally became family with this cafe and the workers and like the manager. When we left, like people were crying, and she's like, no one has ever seen my employees the way you saw them. Like you have literally changed their life, because we saw them as like the Christ light that they were. Like we interacted with them, that they like, even though we couldn't speak the language and they couldn't speak the language. And so the preference was I wanted broccoli. Right? That's what brought us to that place. And it was never about the damn broccoli. But that's how Spirit got me there, was my need for broccoli. And so same for you, is like, if you become an extra, it's going to be an amazing experience. Like I'm not denying that. But what Jesus and God really care about is the interactions that are going to come from that quote unquote experience. And it used your preference to be, because it, like you said, Joy, how we know that it's Spirit led is when it doesn't make any sense. Like there's tons of cafes along the strip our second cafe, and only one has fresh broccoli. Like, you know, like being told that they're not going to need extras, and then all of a sudden this email that I didn't even get, Joy. Like, I don't know. I'm part of the chosen email, so I don't know how you got it. And I even checked their Instagrams today. I checked Dallas. I checked the chosen. They're not talking about it. It is not on any of their social media. So I don't know, like,
how where I got it.
Where this is coming from. Because you know the chosen, they're all about like marketing, like let's share. And so to not see it on Dallas's Instagram, even saying like, don't forget tomorrow, to those of you that got the email, like nothing. There is literally nothing on his stories or the chosen stories. And then you having an event right before, an event right after, and it making absolutely no sense for you to do that, that's when we know it's Spirit, because it like never makes sense. It's just like, It feels so
just
cold,
lines up.
but but it doesn't make sense at the level form, like with your husband, right? Like you prayed, and it didn't make sense financially, first of all, for you or it made sense. No, it didn't make sense, but it felt right for you to. So you even told me, you're like, I don't care. I'll put it on credit cards. I'll pay it. And then to be on top of that, your husband to be like, let's do 2.
Yeah. I know.
That's when Spirit's working through you, when you are the hands and the... Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree. And it is such a strong pull sometimes, or push or a pull, that you can't ignore it. And I think in the past, I probably did ignore a lot of pushes or pulls because I wasn't listening. And I journal about that a lot. Like I want to be better at listening and just being still and asking for guidance sometimes too. Yeah. So I have to tell you this story, and I could not wait for our phone call. Because my husband and my youngest, the 3 of us, went to Virginia Tech this past weekend because it was spring game. And offense plays defense. It's a brand new coach. They do it every year, but this year it's a new coach. So it was absolutely packed. A friend of mine was there who's alum. Her husband's alum. Her son went there. In fact, that's why my daughter went there, is they brought her to a game. Anyway, so they're very familiar, and she told me, I have never, ever seen a spring game this packed, ever. And that morning, the morning of the spring game, every single year, they do the 3, I'm not sure exactly what the official name is, but it's a 3.2 mile run for the 32 victims of the VT shooting that happened many, many years ago.
Yeah.
This year they had over 16,000 participants, which is amazing. I know. And my daughter's
That's a lot of people.
Huge. I was like, I'm sorry, how many? So my daughter's boyfriend ran in it. And I said to my girlfriend and my daughter, I was like, I want to do it next year. I'm not going to run. I'm not a runner, but I would love to walk and do it next year. So my husband and I are taking an Uber from our hotel with our youngest to the stadium. And the guy driving starts telling us all about he's running for sheriff and he's this and he's that. And he just seemed like such a pure-hearted, kind person, and just the conversation he was having about the town of Blacksburg and wanting to see it progress in the right way and blah, blah, blah. So he said, I'm running for sheriff. So I pulled out of my purse, because I carry a little baggie of baby Jesus with me. Yeah. I pulled it out of my purse and I gave it to him. And I was like, you know what? Good luck, in your election and this and that. And he said, I'm going to put this right on my dashboard. It was just one of those moments I was feeling like, this is going to be a beautiful, good day. So we go into the stadium. Can't find a seat. It's packed. It's really windy. It's warm. We're looking. We can't find a seat. So we end up, the 5 of us, my 2 daughters, boyfriend, my husband and I, are kind of just standing, in a stadium where you're not really sitting. You're just kind of standing. And my husband goes, look, the paratroopers are coming in. And they have 3 paratroopers that come in. They get dropped from a plane. One's carrying a VT flag, another's this huge American flag, and I'm not even sure if the other one's carrying anything. Anyway, so the first guy starts to come down to land on the field, and it's super, super windy. And my husband and I are like, wow, he kind of looks like he's going for the bleachers.
Oh, shit.
And you could see he was kind of in like a little whirlwind when he dropped, when he finally made it to the field. So we're like, wow. And my husband and I are like, it's really, really windy. The second paratrooper is coming in and realizes he's not going to make the field. So he pulls up and lands behind the scoreboard. We don't even know where he lands. He lands behind the field. Third one with the gigantic American flag is coming in. He ends up dropping his flag because he knows he's not going to make the field. He is going straight for the student section. He pulls up and slams into the Jumbotron, glass flying everywhere. Yeah. Oh yeah. I grabbed my husband's arm and I'm like, oh my.
This is one of those moments.
Oh, it was horrific. So then The parachute attaches and hooks on to the H on the top of the Jumbotron. So they're big metal letters, like,
like it says Virginia Tech, TECH.
Yeah.
Okay.
H.
So it's the H, yeah.
So we're all gasping because his parachute has now deflated. He is slammed into this, glass flying everywhere.
He's just hanging.
His parachute gets hooked on the H. It is so windy this whole time. All I could think is, oh my gosh, if a gust comes up and pulls it off, he's dropping straight down to the pavement, at least 100, 150 feet. I don't even know, even if it was 30 feet.
It doesn't matter. Like you can fall 8 feet and...
Oh yeah. I don't know how long he hung there. It felt like an eternity. At some point, I walked away and I was like, I can't watch this. Because
could you tell he was like conscious? Did he get knocked out? Could you tell he was...
The only reason I could tell he was conscious because this happened on one end of the field behind the goalpost where the students sit, and we were literally on the goalpost at the other end of the field, so I couldn't see that far. So I'm relying on my daughter's boyfriend's eyes. I'm like, is he moving? Is he moving? And he's like, he's moving. He's moving. But you don't. I couldn't tell. Is he hooked?
Yeah, what does that mean? Is the wind moving him? Or
yeah, like how is he dangling? Took forever. One fire truck comes in. Everyone starts cheering because, as you can imagine, all of the band, the ROTC, because Tech is a big ROTC. All of the cadets are lined up on the field. I mean, we're about to start the game. Yeah. And it was just dead. Like everyone just stopped what they were doing. And we were all just, so the first fire truck comes in, everybody starts cheering, can't reach him. Wind
the boom
gusts,
isn't big enough?
Nope, boom isn't big enough. Wind gusts are going. At one point, the bottom part of the parachute that is not hanging wrapped around his body. I mean, it was, and at one point he kind of dropped a little bit. It just was... It was insane. And one of the concession workers came out and she was like, did the game start? It's really quiet. And my daughter said, no, look. And she was like, oh my gosh, we had no idea what's going on. So thankfully there was a police officer standing next to us who had an earpiece. And he said, he's moving. They're on their way. He's okay for now. So second fire truck comes in. Finally gets him down. The whole place erupted. And I told my girls, I said, girls, you literally witnessed a miracle today. Because the fact that that man didn't drop, that he pulled up, didn't hit the student section, that they got to him in time before the parachute ripped or came down. He walked away, and report is... his shoulder is in a sling, and he had his shoulder
dislocated.
Injured.
Wow.
Can you imagine? He was a 2-time Purple Heart recipient, a bronze recipient.
Does he get another Purple Heart for that? Like, what the shit?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I even said
were they like announcing over the speakers? Like, were they like, saying anything, or was it just like nothing?
Anything. They weren't saying anything at the so then I was like, well, surely the game's going to get canceled and this, that. No, they went on with the game, and the new head coach came out on the field and said, just to let everybody know, the second paratrooper is fine, and this gentleman is at the hospital. He's in stable condition. He's fine. And we were all just like, I started crying. Crying. My husband, I think, even was kind of teary-eyed, and
that might be the moment you watch someone die.
I know. It was horrifying. It was so horrific. And I said, he still isn't done yet. That man still has purpose on this earth.
Yeah.
God still has plans for him. And today was not his day. But just the way it all unfolded, it was unbelievable. I've obviously never seen anything like that in my life, and hope to never again. But just the thanking God, I literally all day I was like, thank you, God. Thank you for saving him. Because I kept saying, wrap your angel arms around him and hold him. because that's what I told my husband too, is mentally just hanging there. And I don't know, maybe he knew that he was okay. I don't know.
I mean, he's military, so he has lots of I mean, if he has 2 Purple Hearts, this isn't his first brush with death, probably.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And then the next day we were at my daughter's sorority brunch, and there was a mom and a dad and a daughter there. And the dad said, I was sitting very close to the student section. So my husband said, so you could see everything. And he said, I could. And he said, and my husband said, well, were people talking to him and saying, hey, hang in there, they're on their way, anything? And he said at one point, the student section was chanting USA, USA over and over. And another chant they were doing, go Hokies, trying, to
keep him.
Yeah, but it was insane. And I really, really believed with all my heart and soul that God saved him for sure. It could have been so much worse.
Yeah. Wow. What an experience to witness that, and to just, I mean, it had a purpose for sure, so much, and so many people to witness it. Like, that's such a purpose.
I know. That's why I was like, there is a reason that this happened. And of course, everybody was talking about it for,
they probably
the rest
still
of
are.
the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm not on TikTok or anything. I'll bet you it was all over. Like, there's probably videos everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Like ESPN and TMZ ran the story.
Oh, yeah, TMZ. Of course, TMZ. They probably got, like, a video from some student or something.
Well, and that's the thing, is my daughter was recording because she was recording them flying in, obviously not knowing this was going to happen. So when she said, I've recorded it, that was my first immediate thought, as I said, please don't post that. Don't post it. Don't do anything with it. Because he was still there. He was still hanging.
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, right.
But it was witnessing, I felt like witnessing a miracle for sure. That he even that his parachute even got hung up on that H.
Yeah.
Is
it's crazy.
Insane.
Well, it's like, reminds me, and I think we talked about it in our one of our podcasts, how we talked about the like signs and wonders, and when Jesus came, and certain people need big quote unquote signs and wonders like that, big miracles, to start to open themselves up to see like the miracle in everything, right? Like every single moment is actually a miracle. And Einstein, I think it was Einstein, he's like this science dude, this guy that was like lived his life in science, and science is black and white, right? And he said either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And so it's so apparent that was like a big sign and wonder to help whatever, maybe it was everyone or something, to kind of begin to shift their perspective.
You're so right. Of all the people there, how many people needed to see?
Or the people, what if it was even like a person watching TMZ, or, what I mean? Like, it was so broadcasted everywhere. It's like a call, like The Chosen says. I don't believe that what The Chosen means is that God only chooses a select few. The way I interpret it is that, like, the call is always out there. The chosen are the people that answer the call. And anybody can answer the call, but you have to be ready. So to me, like, if everything is a miracle, everything is a call. Just some appear so much larger and earth-shattering in the world, in the illusion. So, like people with near-death experiences or stuff like that, like, it is no different than you being picked for the chosen, right? They're both miracles. They're all happening exactly as they're meant to, but some people where they're at need a near-death experience for them to answer the call. Some people just need to be picked for the chosen to answer the call. Like, it's all different, but it's always the same. And so it's like, oh, you're not more special because God saved you from dying versus Joy getting picked for the chosen. It's the same. It's just Joy didn't need to almost die. But actually, you kind of did. I mean,
Yeah,
not to,
I
like
could
with
have.
your cancer
Yeah.
is what really shook you. I mean, you
Yeah,
didn't get
for
to the point
sure.
necessarily of like, on your deathbed, but you had been given a notice of like this, that could be one of the outcomes of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right, because it did. It was a life-changing thing for me in such a positive way. And I know it sounds crazy when people say that, or when I say that, and I've heard other people say it too, that their cancer diagnosis changed so much for the better. Like, let's say they were a workaholic and they reprioritized their life or whatever. One of my friend's friend was diagnosed, and she's a devout Catholic and always has been. And since her diagnosis, my friend said her faith is just kind of taken a nosedive.
Yeah.
And I sent her a healing prayer. I made these little packets. It's a healing prayer and then this cross that's from an olive tree in Jerusalem, and then these little baby Jesus. And I put them in these little organza bags, and I'm sure I told you about this.
You were going to sell them on Etsy, right?
Yeah, I had these dreams of like
I know.
selling them on Etsy and spreading the love. And then I was like, okay, the shipping costs more than I could charge. So I was like, okay, never mind. I'm just going to give it to people. I'm just going to give it whether I know them or not, if it's a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
So I sent her one, and I just wrote her a card. I'm here if you ever want to talk, or if you have any questions or anything. And then I said, here's a few Bible verses that got me through it, and I have already shared with you guys that my friend's friend did that for me. And my friend said, Joyce, she called me and said she got your card, and she was crying. It really moved her. And I was like, not that alone will reaffirm her faith, but I just wanted to remind her that even though you're not feeling it, that's why we're supposed to pray for others, because sometimes they don't feel like praying for themselves. And I just wanted to remind her, there's somebody praying for you. Even if you can't right now, I understand, but I'm praying for you. And I know he listens. There's no two ways about it. He definitely listens. But this is also why I believe our trials and tribulations are purposeful too, because I can empathize with her. I know the feeling. I know the fear she's going through and whatnot. So it was just kind of what we talked about before about the rose. You can't hand someone a rose without the smell getting on you. It makes me feel good in a selfish, weird way, hoping or knowing that I can help lift up somebody else. And I also sent another one to my husband's co-worker, is going through something similar, and she wrote me back a really, really beautiful note that really touched me, because it touched her. So it was like a full circle moment. So I made them all, and they'll serve their purpose when and however they're distributed.
Well, I mean, I think it's a beautiful testament and reminder that in giving is receiving, and that God hears the prayer on all of our hearts, right? So even if we forget to pray or we're not in a state of praying, like the prayer on all of our hearts is that we want the love of God, right? That's the prayer. So like this lady who gets cancer and her faith has taken a nosedive, that's only at the level of form, that body, but her heart is still in the same prayer it always has been. So then, then you being the hands and the voice and things for Jesus is how can we remind her? How can we remind her in this moment of the deep prayer that's actually on her heart, and that she's not alone? And it's, you always talk about like the sprinkler versus the fire hose, is because we're not meant to convince anyone. Jesus never asked his disciples to convince people. He asked his disciples to share a message and then trust that God would do the rest. And and to trust that it was not their job. Think of how many times in The Chosen does, Simon come and about someone who doesn't believe and how they should believe, and Jesus, I'm going to tell them. And Jesus like, no, No, we just continue to share, and then we trust that God is handling the rest, and it's not our responsibility. And I think that's why we have to be so careful with, and you and I talked about this before, with the belief that our prayers can save people at the level of form, because we know, I know plenty of people who've been prayed for that didn't make it. And that can feel very shameful if you were one of the people praying. Then you'd be like, well, God didn't answer my prayers. Or, think if it's your mom or your dad or someone close and you're like, that can quickly turn your faith. And I know for me, it did, right? Like my divorce and stuff, it quickly, I thought, God only picks the most beautiful flowers. Those statements that we hear at funerals and stuff. And, if you're loyal to God, he will pave the path for you. But my interpretation of that was that then things would be good and they would go easy. But that's just my interpretation. And we've talked about that before. Like the trials and tribulations, we only see it as a trial or tribulation because we're viewing it from the worldly view, not the kingdom of heaven, which just sees it as it's just something occurring to bring you closer, an experience that was necessary for you to interact. Like think, 9/11, I mean, I know it was kind of controversial. Some of them, like, husbands that were cheating on their wife. I heard those stories and they weren't in the towers, but they were saved. And it's seen as bad, like, oh my gosh, she found out he was cheating or whatever. But it was like before, like your preferences are used to guide you to where you're meant to be in that moment. And we only see it as good or bad. Because Joy, what if you do get picked to be on the chosen, right? And we do all the things. We schedule the flights and the place to stay, and we get your outfit, and you get halfway there, and you can't find a plane to get you the rest of the way there, and you miss it. Yeah. But you interact with people in a way, and even if you don't have this moment of aha, which I know you would because you're so aware of it, but some people aren't aware, and they aren't able to see that everything has a purpose. And when we see that it has purpose, you can't feel pain. Like pain and purpose can't coexist. When all of a sudden, you switch your mind to oh, this cancer has purpose, it's uplifting. It's okay, we can do this then. Or a death, right?
Yes,
have purpose.
It's so
we can
true.
do it.
My cousin was 4 years old. This goes back, I was in middle school. I was in 6th grade. So this goes back decades and decades ago. I had a 4-year-old cousin who we were living in Washington State, Fort Lewis, Washington, on the Army base. My cousin had come out to Washington State with my grandparents and stayed for a month and visited us, and it was beautiful and whatnot. He went back to Chicago with my grandparents. Make a long story short, he drowned in a swimming pool that was not a full swimming pool. It was a swimming pool that had been emptied but was filled with storm water.
For the season, yeah.
And he was playing in the shallow end with tadpoles and whatnot, and he slipped. And when they couldn't even see him. I mean, it was swampy water and whatnot. So he just went missing. And he was a towhead, this curly white blonde hair, beautiful big eyes. He was a beautiful child. And at first my aunt thought, oh my God, he's been kidnapped. He's disappeared. They called the police. And then they said, did you check the swimming pool? And she thought that a body floated when it drowned. So she's like, he's not in the swimming pool. They sent in divers and they got him to the hospital, did manage to resuscitate him for a little bit. And then he did pass.
How much longer was that afterwards? Oh my gosh, they were able to...
Yeah, it had to have been quite a while. And then, so he ends up passing. And my mom flew from Washington to Chicago, red eye immediately. She was on a plane and she left. So my brother and I are left with my dad, and we're both beside ourselves. I mean, he had just been with us. He was like a little brother. And it was also my very first experience with death. And I'll never forget, my dad sat on the bed and explained to my brother and I, because we were not a faith-filled family. We didn't go to church, anything like that. But my dad sat down and he said, listen, everything has a purpose. God has a plan for all of us. God is in control. He took Jason home for one reason or another. Maybe it was he was going to grow up and not do great things and not be a good person. Maybe he was going to get hurt in a different, more horrible way. Either way, God had a plan and a purpose, and that's why he brought him home. And it's obviously stuck with me for my entire life because the way he explained it made it not so terrible and not so awful when you say they took him home. Kind of like what you were saying earlier, you pray for someone and you pray and you pray and pray, and they pass away. And listening to Joel said, but you know what? God did still heal them. God did heal them. They are no longer in pain. They're no longer suffering. They are now healed because they're out of whatever it was that they were kind of going through, or pain or whatnot. And I hold on to that a lot because I always think, okay, they're in a better place. They're at peace. And I believe they're always with us. I was pregnant with my oldest, and my grandmother had a heart attack on dialysis. We drove up to Wisconsin. I'm 8 months pregnant. My mom, my dad, and I had to stop every hour to get out of the car and walk around. And it was a snowstorm, and there was like all these crazy things going on. Got to see my grandmother. She got the breathing tube out. We talked. She sat up. She had her hair done. We had laughs. We joked. We talked. She kind of shared some family history with me about her breast cancer, whatnot, which, lo and behold, was important later on in life. So she ended up passing 2 weeks before my daughter was born. And I remember when my mom called me that morning and said, Grandma passed. She had another heart attack on dialysis. She had a DNR. I didn't cry, and I wasn't sad, and I wasn't upset. And I know that might sound callous, but my first thought was, oh my gosh, my unborn baby just got a guardian angel who's always going to watch out for her. And as sad as I could be that, she never got to meet her first great-grandchild, she does. She does get to. She does get to see. She gets to be in the room if she wants. That was my belief anyway, is that they never leave us. They're always still with us. They're just no longer in pain. They're no longer trapped in their body. So it really helped me a lot kind of look at, are they healed? Are they okay? I like to believe they are.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, that's why belief in something is so powerful, which can be used for the positive or the negative, right? When we believe things, it can completely impact everything. But one thing that came to me, Joy, I was like, wow, I never thought of it this way, is when we pray for other people's healing, I've shared, I really believe we're one. And so in giving is receiving, in healing is through our brother. So we heal through our relationship with our brother, which is really the relationship with Jesus and with God. It's just at the level of form, it's a being. So when, Joel says, well, they are healed, they're in a better place. What if the prayer actually is your own healing? Because you're only witnessing it as negative because of your stories, right? So when we pray for their healing, that's because we have these stories at the level of form that if they die, it's bad. But really that prayer getting answered is the moment that you can see that this was purposeful. The moment, that's where the true healing is in your own mind of how you're witnessing it, because you only witness it as bad. It's like being grandiose to God. It's like you telling God that this isn't okay. This isn't how the story should go. And a belief that you know better. And so when you're praying for their healing and the real prayer is the healing of your own mind, the healing of your perception of what's actually occurring. And then, it doesn't matter how that happens, right? It could just happen, or it could happen through, realizing that your mom or your grandma is a guardian angel now. Like, whatever it is, it's the shift in the perspective to help you heal your own mind.
Yeah, you're so right. Because when someone passes away, your grief, at least I feel like my grief is sadness because you're going to miss that person.
Yeah, it's personal.
It's very personal. Or you're grieving because you're going to miss that person, or you're grieving for the mother of that child.
Yeah, which is really yours, because you can only, like, people always say, well, you don't really understand because you've never been a mother. Like, they'll say that to a person, right? So, because we have this knowingness that we can relate more if we've actually experienced it. So when we grieve for a mother who lost her child, and you are a mother, it's a much higher level of grieving, because you're actually grieving like for yourself in a way. Do you see what I'm saying? Someone who maybe never had a child, they still feel grief, but it's different because it's more removed. Kind of like if I tell you, tomorrow that my mom dies, you're going to feel sad for your relationship that of me, not because of a personal relationship you have with my mother. You're not going to, one day go to pick up the phone and call her and remember she's not there, but I will. And do you see them? Like, it's these.
Yes. 100%. And that goes back to what you were saying about the oneness. When you have that, I always say it's empathy, that you're very, very empathetic to what someone else is feeling. And some people are deeper empaths, I think, and feel things so much stronger and deeper. Kind of like what you just said about when someone says, well, you're not a mother, you don't understand. And I would be really upset if somebody ever said that to me, because that doesn't mean my heart doesn't still hurt and know, like, that hurt and that pain, for sure. Yeah, that's a kind of a crazy concept of, I may not be a dog owner, but when my friend's dog passed, or when my daughter's dog passed, it was devastating because you feel so horrible for them. You're grieving for them almost. Like you said, I'm not grieving for the missing or the pet that's not with us anymore.
You're grieving for all the relational pieces that bring you a part of it.
Yeah.
And so that's the healing, though, of the mind. I think that the healing that God truly is guiding us to is to realize there is no such thing as death. There is no such thing as birth. It is eternal life. Like, they talk about it in the Bible. Like, eternal life is where God wants us to get. Because even it's the body that dies. It's not, and no matter if you read the Bible or so many different quote unquote religions can all agree. I mean, yes, there's some that don't, but I would say the vast majority agree that we're a spirit, we're a soul, we're more than our body, and that we live on beyond. Some people think you move into a different body. Some people think you never come back. Some people think you go to purgatory or heaven. It doesn't matter, but if we can all agree that there's something bigger than that, then death, I can't remember who it was, someone who I watch, is The Peaceful Warrior. So it's a movie called The Peaceful Warrior. It's also a book. It's Dave Millman. Anyway, I did like a 2-video series on it, like the reflection of Through the Lens. But essentially he says death is just like puberty. It's just another transition. Like, that's where we're trying to get to. That's the healing of the mind, is to just see it as another transition, another tool being used by God. And it doesn't hold any more weight than the stories we place on it. That's the only reason why it holds weight. And I think that's what I was trying to get at, is because if you're close to someone, it seems more impactful than, how many places removed. So we know it's our stories. It's what we believe about our connection with that body. But I think the ultimate healing is seeing the Christ light in everyone and seeing the oneness. And if that's the case, it's like when Jesus resurrected, that's what he showed. He's like, I'm not the body, guys. Like, here, I'm still here. That's what, the Last Supper is about, is Jesus really trying to hone into them. Like, you guys, I'm not this body. And, Simon is like, but where are you going? He's like, but I'm always with you. Yes, my body is not with you. But he also told them in that moment, you're not going to be ready to understand what's about to happen. But he didn't not share with them because they couldn't understand. He still shared with them. And now I'm going off on a tangent. But that's my thoughts.
I was sitting here thinking, as you're saying this, just this morning when I was driving to my appointment, I heard something on Joel Osteen that I had never heard before. And I have to ask you if you had heard about this. So according to what Joel was saying this morning, Jewish tradition way back then was if you enjoyed a meal, you enjoyed the company, all things were good, you crumpled up your napkin and left it on your chair to say, I will be back. This is a wonderful, I've had this great experience.
Yeah.
But if
like
you
holding your seat, for the future.
Yeah, like I'll be back kind of, I don't know. So, but if you didn't enjoy the meal, the company or whatnot, you would fold your napkin and put it on the table. And this was a Jewish custom or tradition way back, I guess, in Jesus' time. I didn't know they had cloth napkins back then, but anyway, as Joel is explaining
I thought they just used their shirts. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, if you watch the shows and it's like they're drinking out of clay. So he was bringing this up as it was pointing to when Jesus was resurrected, that he took his face covering and he folded it and left it in the tomb.
Because he didn't want to come back.
And that's what that's what Joel said. He said, Jesus was saying, I'm leaving this tomb. I'm not coming back here. I didn't enjoy what happened to me to get me here. And I'm resurrected and now I'm leaving and I'm coming back out into the world. And I was like, I had never heard that finite of a story.
I mean, it makes sense because I feel like they were rich in traditions like of doing things.
Yes, very much so. Very symbolic. And
yeah, symbolic. That's the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, what an interesting concept to say.
And is that the special shroud that everyone talks about or whatever?
No.
Like, oh, gotcha. So, go ahead.
That's where, like, sometimes if you start to doubt, like, well, how could that have really happened? Did somebody just go get his body and move it or whatever? I always think about that. I don't think anyone back in that time would have taken a death shroud off of someone. It would have been such a huge sin or such a huge, you just wouldn't do it. You know, it's like stomping on someone's grave. You just don't do it. So it's interesting to me that it was folded and left behind by him like that.
But it makes sense. Because that's what he tried to share at. So, I have my little Last Supper picture. And then you sent me that your friend has an amazing one. And then I just met a friend. I randomly sent her a message. She's a kind of an hour away or whatever, and she thrifts. And I said, I need friends. Do you want to be my friend? And so we're going to be friends. But on her shop, she's got a needlepoint of the Last Supper. But anyway, I feel called to collect, like, Last Suppers. And I think it's because, to me, it was such an impactful moment of Jesus really bringing all these parables and telling you what they really, really meant in the moment. And I think one of the big themes he was attempting to share, by washing everyone's feet and everything else, is that there is no level of hierarchy. This is not about religion. This is about your relationship with me, and not the body that is me, but what I have found, which is the kingdom of God. And so it makes sense that he folded it up, because it's like, okay, this would be a bad analogy, but maybe a good one. You know me and my analogies. But let's say you get invited to someone's house for dinner, and like they're a jerk to you, the food tastes like crap and everything else, right? But that's the only person that keeps inviting you, because you've yet to like expand your mind. And then all of a sudden you get invited to this place that is like the most amazing company. It's the most beautiful house you've ever seen. The food, you've never tasted food like that again. And they're like, you know what? You never have to eat anywhere else again. You can literally eat here all day, every day. Like, would you go back? No, I would never go back to the other place. I only went there because I thought that was the only place. I thought that was the place I had to master. Like, you kept going to dinner, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to bring them red wine tonight. Maybe they'll be in a better mood tonight, right? Nope, still crap. Okay, well, I'm going to bring butter braids. Like, you kept trying all these different things, which in my mind, I'm witnessing like coming back in all these different lifetimes, or even in the lifetime you're in, trying to make your worldly life better. And Jesus is like, no, it is not about your worldly life. Yes, it will become better only when you are in full relationship with me, who has remembered the kingdom of heaven. And that's what I think he means when he's like, only through me can you reach the kingdom of heaven. Not him, his body, not worshiping Jesus's body or Jesus as a person, but the steps he took, which is love. He just lived in this space of love. And he had to do his own work. I mean, he disappears for a period of time, right? They talk about him like when he's a little kid and he preaches some rabbis or whatever. But where the hell did he go for 20 years?
For 3 days. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, for the years that's missing, right?
Yeah.
Like he had to start to see the truth within the world himself, and that like he didn't want to go eat dinner anymore at the crappy house. He wanted to go to dinner at the good house, and then he was able to share. And that's all people remember, right? Like people just, it's like, they always say hindsight's 2020, or, someone could be like awful to you, but there was like one moment they were amazing to you, and 30 years later, that's all you remember is the one moment they were amazing to you. I'm going to
segue into something so different, but when you were talking, I was thinking to myself, relationships, period, are like that. You go to this person's house for dinner, they're not the nicest, not the best food, not the nicest house, but that's what that's what you have. It's like a relationship. You are in a relationship, and I'll just use boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah. With someone, and like you said, oh, well, maybe tonight if the dinner's nicer, they'll be in a better mood, and that's all you know. But then, kind of like a hotel, my husband and I joke about we've turned our kids into these hotel snobs because we again, like you said, we stay on points, and my husband travels for a living, so then when we go on vacation, he wants to stay somewhere nice. Yeah. And one of the thought processes was, okay, and in a relationship, okay, you don't know any different. This is all you know. But then you break up and you start dating a guy who is nice to you and brings you flowers and is courteous and has a great sense of humor, or all the good stuff. I always say to my girls, you never go backwards. Once you have seen a good relationship, or you've stayed in a really nice hotel or had a really nice meal, then you don't want to go back to staying in a not nice hotel, or the next relationship you get into, you're like, I'm not going to go backwards and let someone be unthoughtful. And I'm being so flowery, but you're not
Yeah, I
going to
know. I can tell.
to
It's like it's
terrible
the cycle of
relationship.
domestic violence is what you're
Yes.
sharing. Like when we look at that, like the
Yes.
cycle of violence.
And I think that's the same thing too with once your faith has been deepened or you've seen it, you can't unsee what you've seen.
No.
And then you want it. You want that level of hope, that level of faith, that level of goodness. Like you always say, the light. You want to be in the light. You want to see the light. You want to be surrounded with that. And he talks about in the Bible, you'll never thirst for water again when you have living water.
Yeah.
It's true. Like every morning I do my devotionals, if I don't and I'm busy or we're out of town or things are kind of crazy, my day feels a little off because I didn't spend that time of just setting kind of the tone for the day and remembering, be kind, forgive others, love everyone. Like I have to be reminded of it. Not, you got to be reminded every day, but it's the way it sets the tone for the day. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Jesus is the ultimate relationship, and he showed, like you said, during the Last Supper, he's trying to show us and tell us, hey, serve one another, wash each other's feet, be kind to one another, love each other. When I'm gone, remember I'm still with you. All of those lessons that he tried to impart, and they were really kind of not 100% getting it. I do the same thing with my girls. Like when I say things to them, like, well, you know what? You've had this really great relationship and this great boyfriend. You're never going to go backwards. For the most part, you hope that that's true, but
you can go backwards.
One of those things you learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it feels, and I think that's what Jesus like said in the Last Supper. In the acknowledgement of you're not going to fully get it now, because it was almost like it felt like they went backwards, right? Like some people did actually turn their faith, and I think that's a representation, like you said, once you've experienced the light, you know how beautiful it is. But the truth is, like, we are not all in a space where Jesus is yet, and we still have stories and beliefs at the level form. Like we still are crumpling our napkin up and putting it in the chair. Maybe it's not every day, maybe we're coming less, but the truth is those times then feel so painful that when you're in the darkness, because you do know what the light, it feels like. And I think that's what the relationship with Jesus, like if you realize that really your only relationship here is that with Jesus, but it can be experienced through everything and everyone when you remember that this is all a thing I keep repeating to myself lately is everything I do that all of a sudden I feel myself like, oh, I'm going to do this because of this, right? Like a worldly thing. Like I'm going to go to the grocery store because I have to get groceries for dinner tonight. And you start to feel the have tos or the shoulds. I remind myself like the only purpose for this is truth. And that everything is being used for the remembrance of truth. And we see that like with Jesus washing the feet. It's not like apples to apples of like, yes, you should wash other people's feet. It's the reminder. It's the symbolism that through everyone is me. Like I'm not above. Like you can receive the relationship with me through your brother. Through, like you can interact with him the same way you have interacted with me. Like actually that is your goal, is to then only see that every relationship you are ever quote unquote experiencing at the level of form is actually an opportunity to have a stronger, closer relationship with me. And so like it's what the Course calls a holy relationship. So it's when you transition from, being with someone for ego needs, right? Like Patrick, I'm with him because, he fulfills X, Y, and Z on my checklist, and that's why he's my partner, maybe to give me a baby or to cook me dinner or whatever it may be. And these might not be conscious. Through him is my relationship to Jesus. That is the only purpose our relationship serves, is for me to get closer to Jesus through you, which means at moments you're going to piss me off. At moments you're going to let me down, because it's not about Patrick the body. It's about what that's exposing, the darkness that's being exposed and brought to the light. Like, when he irritates, it's just a facade for the whatever is within, holding me back from the love of Jesus.
And it's funny you say that, because I just listened to something on that this morning. Is we sometimes look at our relationships as fulfilling our needs. Even in the healthiest relationships, even if you're super healthy, they're still going to disappoint you. They're still going to upset you. They're still going to let you down, or you get irritated with them, but that's because we're human, and another human cannot fulfill the needs that we have or desires we have 100% of the time, all the time. And just like God talks about, or the Bible talks about, striving for money and striving for whatever it is you're going to idolize, It could even be something healthy, like, I'm going to work out all the time. Well, that starts to be an idol. And nothing is going to fulfill your true inner peace and happiness unless you're going to Him, because He's the only one that can fill it for you, because He's not a human. And all of those things are fleeting. One day you're not going to be able to work out. One day, doesn't matter how much money you have if your health is not good, So this is where I think people get kind of frustrated or struggle, or because that other person is never going to fulfill all of what you think you need.
No.
And again, it's what we think we need.
Right. And that's not. We have no clue what we actually need. That's the problem. And I think what you kind of just touched on is routines. Like the ego or fear or the devil or whatever the word is you want to place on that, loves it when we have created a routine that provides us an outcome. So let's say every morning we have a specific routine. It could be we do yoga or pray. And if we don't do our routine, then the rest of the day isn't good. And so the ego loves that, because then at any given moment, it can take the opportunity away. And then we have a shit day the rest of the day. So it's really about seeing everything as fleeting. Like you said, we have really no clue what actually makes us happy. So the belief that that routine is what is making our day a certain way is actually the belief that something at the level of form, at the body, because it's even our body, right? Because we even turn it like that. The belief that Ashley doing yoga every morning is what makes her day amazing has taken it from God, has taken it from Jesus, when actually what makes my day amazing is my relationship with Jesus. And I can experience that through anyone. So let's say I don't get to do yoga one morning because, I've got an appointment or I overslept or whatever. I can still experience the love of Jesus through even interacting with my toothbrush, because we're in relationship with everything with the purpose of remembering the relationship with God and remembering the truest relationship there is, which is God. That's why, light between us, right? It's living. This podcast I created as a living witness to the We Go Home 2x2, and we only go home through our relationship with Jesus, which is experienced through our relationship with our brother, or the couch that caused you to stub your toe, right? How many times have we cursed an inanimate object because it caused us pain? Do we really believe that? Do we really believe that? I mean, how ridiculous are we?
I know, and I do. We all do it too.
Yeah.
It also, as we're talking about this, it makes sense too that when I have friends that have dated people or gone on a date with someone, and I've said, wait a minute, he checks all the boxes. He's smart, he's kind, he's this, he's that. He checks all the boxes, and they're just not feeling it. They're just not feeling it. And they're like, I agree, he's good looking. I agree, he's kind. I agree, but I'm just not feeling it. And I, up until this moment, have always been like, wow, I don't know why they don't see it. But it's a feeling. It's a feeling.
Because it's not about those things. Like, we want to believe it is.
Yeah.
Like Patrick, and like we said earlier, with you going, even applying for the chosen thing makes no sense. You have too much shit going on in your life, Joy. Like, if we just go ask someone who's like not living in faith, they'd be like, no, you should not go. But it's like Patrick, when I met him, he did not meet what I was looking for. But he sparked this massive curiosity within me, which to me is like you. Like, applying for the chosen did not meet any worldly about saving money, having money, being busy, flying across the country, any of those things. But you felt curious. You felt the nudge. You felt the drive to that. And so, sometimes they might meet physical attributes, but where we get caught up is if we believe that's why we're with them, is because it meets the physical attributes. If we believe that's why, we're rich and famous, is because of all of our hard work. I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but it's nothing to do with that. That was a part of the plan always. And yes, at the level of form, it appears you worked hard. But I know plenty of people who work hard and don't become rich and famous. They bust their asses. And if I tell them that, it's because you're not working hard enough, that's pretty effed up, because I know they are. So if they both can be true, that means neither of them are true. Right? Yeah. If it's true that you can work your ass off and be broke, or you can work your ass off and be rich, then then the action isn't what caused it. Something grander did, right? Something grander is what aligned for you to get there.
And that's why the Bible talks about it all the time, is you cannot earn your way into heaven. It's not about how hard you work or how much money you donate or all the acts of service and kindness you do. Yes, he wants us to do all those things, but you can't earn your way into heaven. It's his grace and his mercy. It's a place that you have to find within. You have to let go of all the worldly things. It's not coincidence that when Jesus came, he didn't go to the churches and recruit people. He went to the freaking slums and recruited people, because those people didn't have the shiny objects to make them believe that that's why they were being chosen, right? To make them believe like, it's because I have this skill or that skill. I mean, even at one point, like in The Chosen at least, right? The Chosen is an amazing depiction, and I know anyone listening, like, yes, maybe The Chosen doesn't align with how you witness the Bible, but at one point, I think Simon or one of them explains away that the only reason why Matthew is there is because he knows numbers. And Jesus is like, no. And he doesn't even have Matthew handle the numbers. He gives it to Judas, which made no sense because Jesus wasn't looking to grow it, but that was Judas's idea and thought that's why Jesus gave it to him. No, because it was a part of the plan, because he had to tattle on Jesus. He played a role in it. And it wasn't what we thought it was. And I think that's the piece too, like you said earlier, like you can't unknow what you know, but we have to caution ourselves from doing something that doesn't align with that anymore, because it can become shameful. Like, say you go back to a relationship that's abusive. I know many people are like, but I know better. I experienced a relationship that wasn't. I shouldn't have. And what Jesus told, like Judas had everything. Right? He had all of the everything he needed, but yet he still, quote unquote, went backwards. And Jesus, by already knowing all of that and allowing him to sit right next to him, at the Last Supper, and allowing, breaking bread with him and all these symbolic things that are pretty important, was him telling us that none of that matters. We all have a part to play. And it's not about shaming or guilting yourself. It's about seeing the purpose, seeing that this is purposeful and part of the plan. And you even said there's like information about the guy that slayed Jesus in the side, and then later he turns. Yeah. I can't remember where I heard it or read it. I can't remember now where I heard it or read it, but that some of the Roman soldiers at the crucifixion when Peter did the first sermon after Jesus was crucified, that they came to the sermon. And basically, at that point, I guess it wouldn't be converting, but that they came to
became
realize, man, what we did was not okay. And I had never heard that until recently. And I was like, wow. Yeah, everything is purposeful, though. Yeah. And even I was listening to Lisa Turker's podcast the other day, and she has a counselor and a pastor on it with her, and talking a lot about forgiveness. And she's written a bunch of books, but her latest, I think, the title is something like Surviving an Unwanted Divorce. And I thought about so many people that I was like, how do you survive when you didn't want that? And I haven't read the book, but I'm thinking, okay, do they talk a lot about, but it had a purpose. It brought you to somewhere you needed to be, or like we say sometimes, you wouldn't have walked away. Like there's toxic situations I've been in that I would not have walked away. Something happened where I had to walk away. Mm-hmm. But now I look at it as, you know what, that was divine intervention. I wouldn't have done it on my own. So
yeah,
it was done purposefully for a reason. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I'm okay with it. Now I can be at peace with it.
Right. But it's about seeing everything like that, right? Like seeing it in nothing is in Ashley's power per se, except my perception of it, right? Like that's the only thing that I actually have control over is my perception of what's going on outside of me. And so I think that was really like the invitation from Jesus too at the Last Supper is like, they knew that he had the power to move mountains, right? And all this stuff. And for him to not save himself and to go through with the cross was like the final message of like, it's already written. No matter how much power you believe I have or do not have, it's going to unfold exactly as it's meant to, even if I'm aware of it, right? Because the power of God is even above Jesus, right? I think there's many religions that believe Jesus is the one to worship, is the God, does contain all the power, but that's what he showed us. Like if you think people want to die, you think people want to be up on a cross, like that is not something you sign up on Sunday for, right? Like you're not like, oh yeah, I'm going to volunteer and be the person on the cross. Count me in. That sounds great. Like, and he said, and he shows that in the, at least in The Chosen, that's what I felt with the final scenes of this last season when he's in the garden or wherever, when he's, like, he knows what's coming. And, like, if he could choose different in the moment, well, I mean, he wouldn't because he has so much faith in God. But you see him grappling with, like what you said, his humanness, like the fear that's coming up within him, the anger, the sadness, like they show his human emotions. But the key piece is, he doesn't attach to them. He doesn't make a plan because he's having those emotions, right? Like we think that whenever we feel discomfort, we need to make a plan to switch it. But all he does is ask for a different perspective because he knows it's not up to me.
Right. And that's why it's such a sacrifice. It's a huge sacrifice for him to keep going forward, knowing, okay, this is the purpose. This is why I'm here.
What's the sacrifice of the world? That's what he sacrificed, and that's why he folded his thing up, and that's what he's asking us. That's what it means to carry your cross, not to sacrifice worldly things, but to literally hand over the whole world and realize that is not the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. And I think we need, at least I need to be reminded sometimes of that. Of, wow, he did all of this so that we could be free and not to waste that. And he doesn't want us to live each day planning and worrying and full of anxiety and sadness, and he wants us to live joyful and peaceful because he's already done the hard part for us.
Well, he showed us. He showed us the way, like, and I think that's where he disappeared to for that chunk of time that there is no record of history of where he was. Is like he was doing the final steps of remembering truth, which is, this is all like a big movie that we're in. This isn't the house of God. The house of God is a space that is the space that we believe, you know, the soul, the spirit, the whatever lives, right? Not the body. And he just and I think he had to get to that space, but he also shows us, like, I still have there's a part of me, because I'm still in this world, that grapples with me being a body or not being a body. And so I think he's like reiterating to us that you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Like,
like,
here's the wheel, and I'm showing you, and these are what all my parables are. I'm showing you the immense power that comes, not because I want you to use your power to manifest and stuff, but to just show you how powerful the mind is, that it has you tricked to believe that you are just a body, that you just need to make money, that you just need to find a new partner, and yet you will be happy. I'm here to show you, like, none of that matters. The happiness is coming from the relationship with God, which, because I came down and became a body, your easiest way to get there is through me, because you can relate more to me as the body than you can to, like, this deity or whatever that's just like floating in the ethers.
And I also think is the empathy. He was able, because he became human form, like when Lazarus died and his sisters are crying, and then Jesus starts crying. His heart is hurting. He knows he's going to raise him in a hot second here.
But he's still in human
hurting
form.
For them. You know, he's so empathetic, and I understood the emotion that they were feeling. Mm-hmm. And that's why even now to this day, I'm like, he knows when we're in pain, he knows what that feels like. He knows what heartache is. Mm-hmm. And that's why he never leaves us, because even though you're so sad and you're on the ground and you are at your lowest or whatnot, he's still right there. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a child and a parent. Mm-hmm. Jesus was hurting in Gethsemane because he knew I'm going to be betrayed by someone I love. Even Simon Peter is going to betray me and pretend like he doesn't even know me. It's no different than when our kids yell at us, or they're disrespectful, or we feel like they're mean to us. It doesn't change your love. It doesn't change. You would still sacrifice your life for them. And because he showed us that, I think that's where I draw strength in that from. It's an unconditional love. He loved us unconditionally, that he bore that horrific act for us, just like we would for our own children. It's that unconditional love that I think we all strive for. Like, to me, that's
it's
like
the God of love of God that we're looking for.
Yeah, because he's so unconditional.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, anything at the level of form, body, animal, cannot provide that to us. So it's like the song, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces. Like, literally, that song is, like, so true. Like, and that's when I'm talking about, of like, when we are seeking at the level of form, like seeking joy to meet my unconditional love, she can't do that as joy. But when I see Jesus through her and trust that whatever the body that appears to be joy is doing is bringing me closer to that unconditional love, is when I can fully experience that. And, you know, I mean, just, so much.
I know. It's a lot. We'll never, ever truly, in my opinion, ever really, truly be able to comprehend, because it's at such a deep, huge level that we're never going to really know everything we're supposed to know. So to try to even understand that kind of love, that you would sacrifice the closest I can imagine is parent and child. But this is where I always say I feel very blessed because of that he loves me unconditionally. All the mistakes I've ever made or I'm gonna make, he still loves me, and that's a comforting feeling.
Yeah. I think that love we can never understand at the level of form, but yet we experience it all the time. That's that deep internal connected feeling that we cannot explain with words, because that's like the ego level. And I guess how I see is that we can never make mistakes, because if we truly believe that God is ever powerful in guiding us, even in the moments that we aren't seeking guidance, like we truly trust that he is always using everything for the good, then nothing is ever a mistake. Everything is always happening for, I mean, there's a quote in the Bible, right? Everything is unfolding for the good, or something along those lines. Like everything is always happening for the quote unquote positive outcome. And so it's not like a permission slip to go do quote unquote bad things. It's a permission slip to follow your heart, to follow what feels guided, and to never, because we follow things thinking like, if I do this, then this is going to be the outcome. That's the problem that God's asking us not to do. And when you don't see a correlation of cause and effect at the level of form, like Ashley's actions equal this, and we just see that everything is a purpose to bring us closer to God, then everything we're doing never can be a mistake, because it's always fulfilling its purpose of bringing us closer to God. Yeah, maybe like it didn't fulfill paying the rent, right? But that was my plan. That wasn't God's plan. So I could only see it as a mistake that I, bet on this horse to pay rent. And I shouldn't have done that, because I thought the outcome was to make money and to pay my rent. But what God's telling me is like, no, there is no outcome at form you're seeking. You're only seeking the relationship with me. And so that bet on the horse, doesn't matter what happened afterwards, that was to bring you closer to God. You not paying your rent this month, to bring you closer to God. You not, getting to go to the chosen, you bring you closer to God. You getting to go to the chosen, bring you everything is always unfolding exactly as it's meant to. So that's one thing, when I said everything is the purpose of truth, that's what I mean. So I've really been working on that, restructuring, even going to the gym, right? I feel pulled to the gym, and my old stories are, so you don't get fat, so you stay fit. And then I have to bring myself back and like, oh, are we thinking we're going to the gym for that? Because that's not the reason. Because I've also experienced where I can go to the gym a million times and eat as healthy as possible and not lose a pound, because it's always unfolding how it's supposed to. And sometimes I need a bigger body to interact in the world a certain way. And sometimes I need a smaller body to interact in the world some way. And that is outside of my choice. That is just what's going to be projected. So I bring myself back of like, no, like I feel I'm going to go to the gym. Like I can feel it inside me that's where it's bringing me. But the only purpose is truth. The only purpose is the relationship to God. And I have to bring myself back over and over. And then all of a sudden I'm doing everything right. Like I can never do anything wrong, because the purpose, like it just has this bigger purpose.
And it's always how you look at it, your perception, and and that's one of the things that a friend of mine said to me, 90% is how you deal with it. 10%, there's nothing you can, it's all in how you approach things and how you view it. And when my dad said, lessons are blessings.
So beautiful. And you guys weren't even, how he, I just thought that was beautiful, how he brought that in with the death of the little boy and someone who didn't bring you to church and stuff. Such a beautiful, unbiased, unweighty description to share with you. And
especially when you're a sixth grade, you're a child, and it was it was definitely one of those moments that I'll always look back and think, I'm so glad that my dad was the one that sat down and explained it to me, because my mom would not have approached it like
that way.
Yeah, at all. So, but purposeful. It was him that sat me down.
Well, yeah, that was God's plan.
Yeah.
There's a purpose.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have done that before too, where I've asked for, okay, guide me on what to say, because I'm not sure I want to say the right thing. Guide me and help me. Kind of like you said before when we talked about Theo of Golden, is use me, work through me to help this person. And I'm hoping I say the right things. And sometimes when I hang up the phone with someone, I think, oh man, I shouldn't have said X, Y, Z. Like you said, I need to work harder on, no, it's okay. There was a purpose for you saying that.
Like you needed, what if ruffling their feathers changed? You know what I mean? Like how many times can we think of moments that someone said unfavorable things to us, but we can now be so like, oh my gosh, I see the purpose later. But if you put the purpose first, we don't have to wait for a look back. We can always be in the moment, like, the purpose for this is to bring me closer to God. The purpose for this is to bring me closer. Like always, everything. Like it's that simple. Like anytime we think, your donation was the purpose to get the ticket. Like even that, like, oh, like when we played that, like, oh my gosh, like if we donate and you don't get the tickets, and we think the purpose of, we literally had two different interpretations of that, because the real purpose was not about the tickets. It was about your donation brought you closer to God. Like the act of donating, the act of, us having these conversations is, which I have to like bring myself back a lot, because we're such a society where we believe the purpose is to have a grand following or to impact a lot of people, or even when we get into the spiritual world, into the religious world, we believe that, Joel Osteen is more right than you are, Joy, because he has a massive following. But Jesus showed us, like, he never really had a massive following. If you think of the amount of people that showed up on the Mount versus how many people would show up to a Taylor Swift concert today, like Jesus is not up there with Oprah or Taylor Swift or any of those people when he was here on the earth, right? He was more like, the singer at the dive bar down the street.
And I just read this the other day too, that helped put that into perspective. Is after he was crucified, if Saul, who turned into Paul, if he would not have been out purposely persecuting people that believed in Jesus, and the disciples weren't being, persecuted, then they wouldn't have scattered. They scattered to save themselves. They scattered to go hide. They scattered to, not be crucified or tortured themselves. If they would not have been treated that way, they would not have scattered. And if they wouldn't have scattered, Christianity wouldn't have grown. The Gentiles wouldn't have become Christians, because they wouldn't even have known about it. Yeah. So, again, very purposeful. Mm-hmm. They were persecuted so that the church and faith and the word could spread. Because like you said, Jesus didn't personally tell all of these people that then created this religion. No. So everything has its purpose. It does. Everything does. And you're right. Reminding yourself of that every day. Okay, this has purpose. This has purpose. This is God's will. Yeah, it's a better way to live than being anxiety-ridden and trying to control everything.
Because you can't, and that's how we know, because like I said earlier, the guy that works his ass off and is still broke, and the guy that works his ass off and is a millionaire, like, this guy's doing the same type of controlling this guy did, like, and then that's when we get into things like, well, because he knows people, like we come up with new excuses, but at the end of the day, that's just an excuse for us to feel like we have control. Like, that's what we're always seeking, is we want to believe we have control over ourselves, over everybody else, but we only have control over our perception, and that's what Jesus shared. Like, man, I'm about to go on the cross. Like, you guys know how powerful I am. You saw me make wine out of water. You saw me part the sea. But I got to do this because it's a part of it. And, like, it doesn't matter what power I think I have or you think I have. Like, it's God's will. And like, that's above all.
100%.
Yeah, so it's just trust in that. Like, okay, trust. Oh my gosh, we're like at an hour and 40 minutes, Joy.
If you and I would go somewhere together, we would have to be so like, okay, where are we and what are we doing? Because you and I would just be like, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, that's right. We're here to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, we would have to like plan ahead of time. Otherwise, I mean, I guess maybe whatever. We just might not eat or sleep or anything for like a few days. And Jesus did that, so maybe it's possible. Maybe we'd be just fine.
Yeah, we wouldn't shower. We wouldn't eat. We would just sit there, be talking and talking. Yeah, I love it.
For hours. Well, I hope we do this. I want to do this again, so let's schedule again. And
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. And oh my gosh, 72 hours. I want to hear right away.
I know. Oh, you're going to be one of my first. I'm going to text you and be like, oh my gosh, let's start thrifting, sister.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for you. And I'm just so excited. Like, we even got to experience the joy. And I think, if anything, it's bringing us closer. It's, it's just working so many beautiful things in the background. So
yes, thank you. Because I felt your support. And I even thought about that. I'm like, I know today she's thinking about me and wishing good things. So thank you.
Yeah. Even last night I was like, okay, tomorrow's the day. Okay, tomorrow's, and I was telling Pat, I was like, oh my gosh, Joy, today's the day.
I know, it's crazy.
We're not putting any weight on it or anything,
yeah,
right?
I know,
Jesus
exactly.
Says, don't put weight, but here we are, we're like, all of our tips. We put all in. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been amazing.
You. So much love. Thank you, anyone who made it all the way to the end. We hope you found this helpful. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things, and this will not be the last conversation with Joy. So much love.